Hi, everybody. This is Erica from In the Company of Cards. Welcome. If you're new, welcome back if you've been here for a while. Today's the 4th, so I won't be reading cards. I was supposed to be here with Dr. Lena Rodriguez from Tarot Down Under, but she never showed up. I guess something must have come up. So we'll probably do something together later in the month, but I didn't want to not come on. Uh, so I just wanted to say a couple of things and then read a couple of excerpts from a speech. You may have heard of the speech. And then let you go about your day or your evening. So we have a president who has signed that big bad bill. He has also said today that he hates half the country. He said, I hate the Democrats. That's not nice for a president. Uh, his Alcatraz Auschwitz is flooding and is housing people even as we speak. And, the masked marauders are out kidnapping people as we speak. So I know for a lot of us, there doesn't feel like there's very much to celebrate. And of course, the person whose speech I'm going to quote from would totally understand. What is sad about that is that this is a speech that was given in 1852. So, slavery was still a thing. We had not had the Civil War yet. And we know that now 47 is saying he's trying to come up with a way to make his farmer buddies and his hotel buddies happy. And so he is essentially putting forth a plan that would is tantamount to slavery. That people can come in, that the farmers and the hotel people will hold the papers on them, which means that they're not free to go to another place that would pay better. Either they stay in that place or they're deported or arrested or whatever. Um, so essentially, we're talking about more than even indentured servitude. It's slavery. It's tantamount to slavery. So I thought that Frederick Douglass's speech was a timely one to quote from. So he is someone who was a slave. By 1852, he has been an orator for some time, meaning he spends half the year going around giving speeches. So he's quite, adept at that, as you'll hear in his words. But he starts out the speech, which is essentially, what is the 4th of July to a slave? And he starts out in a really interesting way. So I want to talk about the way that I want to read you how he starts it out, and then I want to comment a little bit, and then I'll read more. So this is from Frederick Douglass's speech given in 1865 in upstate New York. He says, fellow citizens, I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of this republic, meaning I respect them a lot. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. They were great men, too, great enough to give frame to a great age. It does not often happen to a nation to raise at one time such a number of truly great men. The point from which I am compelled to view them is not certainly the most favorable, and yet I cannot contemplate their great deeds with less than admiration. They were statesmen, patriots, and heroes, and for the good they did and the principles they contended for, I will unite with you to honor their memory. And I just want to, as an aside, say that I think that the most powerful words spoken by those men back then were more perfect union. They understood full well that although they were doing the best that they could as far as their understanding went, they knew that moving forward into the future, what they did would not have been good enough and would need improvement and refining, a more perfect union. He goes on and says, fellow citizens, pardon me. Allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I therefore called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? Would to God, both for your sakes and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. Then would my task be light and my burden easy and delightful. For who is there so cold that a nation's sympathy could not warm him? Who so obdurate and dead to the claims of gratitude that would not thankfully acknowledge such priceless benefits? Who so stolid and selfish that would not give his voice to swell the hallelujahs of a nation's jubilee when the chains of servitude had been torn from his limbs? I am not that man. In a case like that, the dumb might eloquently speak, and the lame man leap as a hart. But such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of the disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. And then he goes on and says, what is, to the American slave, what is your 4th of July? And I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation of savages. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world, travel through South America, search out every abuse. And when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation, and you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival. It's quite the indictment And I think that we are no less indicted today. Uh, I wanted to say that I'm seeing a lot of comments on my videos and my Substacks, etc. And I think there is a great awakening that seems to take place, that seems to be taking place right now, certainly among viewers of mine who are white, and I find that heartening. However, there is still this tendency to ask people like me, um, you know, what can we do? How can we help? I am so depressed by this, I can't move. Um, when will this be over? And I have to say that I have some sympathy for those questions because um, I think that the white people among us here and around the country are feeling these feelings for the first time. The rest of us have not been so blessed. And I think that because we have not been so blessed and have been used to these feelings for a long time, we have built uh, strong sinews. Our muscles are strong. Our forbearance is great, and we cannot lend that to you in any way that will be as useful as you would like it to be. And that makes me sad for you because uh, these sinews were grown and these muscles were grown out of centuries, 400 years of living in a funhouse, being told that this country was one thing when come to find out it's a whole other thing. And now a lot of people are waking up and realizing that it's this whole other thing. And the question that lays before us is, do we want it to continue to be that whole other thing, or do we want to go back to the founding fathers who, as Frederick Douglass said, did a damn good job. They did the best that they could. But even they understood that what they were writing was inside of an historical context, their own historical context. And they had the prescience and the wisdom and the foresight to say, what we've written is good. It's the best that we can do. But we expect moving forward that this is just the jumping off place. This document is just the jumping off place for this country, and that each generation will work to make it a more and more and more and more perfect union. The people who have put together Project 2025, people like well, I don't even know, Arlen Crow and all the Harlan Crow, whatever that guy's name is, Curtis Yarvin, uh, Vote. Uh, these people are, what would we call them? There's a name, dominionists. Look it up. Dominionists believe that God gave dominion over this United States to white men, that there should not be voting. We should not have elections, that we should be run in a very top-down way, and that slavery is a good and great thing. That's what they want to bring back. They're starting slowly, but not really that slowly. You've got camps being built. You've got people being kidnapped off the street, taken to who knows where. Shades of 1939 Germany, anyone? And we don't want to be Germans in 1993, meaning the good people of Germany who just went about their business and, went to the butchers and bought their meat and went to the greengrocers and bought their vegetables and went to the bakery to buy their bread and said to themselves, um, that doesn't smell like bread. What am I smelling? Oh, I'm just imagining it as people were burned alive. We don't want to be those people. So if you are white on this Independence Day, I think it's really important that you not ask us, as I saw somebody on Instagram. I really like some of the stuff that she's put out. This is a lovely white woman, and she's doing a lot of really good educating about race in this country. But today she said, she put out a video and she said, I want to talk to my black viewers. And she said, what can we do, white people? What can we do to make you trust us so that you will stand on the front lines of this with us? What? What? This is your battle. We have made our position abundantly clear since before the time of Frederick Douglass. Nobody wanted to hear it. And hearing it now and getting it, having it really penetrate, has got to be really hard and really painful. It's like you've been asleep and then you wake up and your waking state is the nightmare, but it's real. And some of us have experienced it forever. And some of us have even said, it's a nightmare. And we were told, oh, no, it's not. But now you get it. Now you see that it is. But you can't expect to be rescued. That's really a place of privilege. I'm sure that the first generation of slaves, when they came here, my own ancestors included, probably when the first ones came here, they might have spent their entire lifetimes gazing into the horizon, sure that someone who loved them would come and save them. And nobody came. Nobody came for them or their children or their children's children or their children's 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 children. So we do not ask, well, when is this going to be over? What time is this going to be all, better? Because we know better. This is the great dismantling. This could last your entire life and my life. We may never see the more perfect union achieved, but it doesn't mean we don't work towards it. Would everything you do it because you're looking for the reward yourself? See, we don't operate like that. We know that we may not see it in our lifetime, but maybe our children will. Maybe our children's children's children will. That's why we do what we do. But we can't do your work for you. You need to talk to each other. If you have family members and it's the 4th of July and everybody's there, and somebody makes some smart comment about how great it is that they're rounding up all these people, you have a choice in how you respond to that. Are you going to go grab another beer and act like you didn't hear it? Or are you going to say something? That's the work you can do. We can't do that work for you. And I can't even imagine how difficult this is, how painful this is to wake up to a country that you say you don't recognize. But I'm here to tell you it has always been like this. The guy I quote from all the time is Arthur Miller, the playwright. And I'm going to say it again because I know I have a lot of new viewers and maybe you haven't heard me say it. But uh, Arthur Miller was a playwright from the 50s, and he wrote a play called The Crucible, which takes place in 1692, Salem, Massachusetts. In Salem, Massachusetts, they were hanging people as witches. And so John Proctor, it was a farmer, just a regular guy, He had a wife and he had three sons, and he was accused of being a witch, and in fact was hanged as a witch. But during his trial, he said something that it's an actual line that he said, and Arthur Miller put it in the play. He says, you know, we tell well, the backstory. We tell ourselves that we are this great nation. I mean, geez, we got a Statue of Liberty to prove it, right? Give me you're tired and you're poor, but not really. So, what John Proctor says, and this play was written in response to Joseph McCarthy, the guy who was accusing everybody of being communist until he went too far and accused Dwight Eisenhower of being a communist, and that he was a senator, and that's when they finally realized, wait a minute, let's wake up from this fever dream. So Arthur Miller wrote this play as a cautionary tale about something that actually happened in actual history, 1692, to say, I see echoes of 1692 in what's happening in 1952. So he wrote this play. And the line that this farmer says, he says, we are as we always were, only naked now. This country is no different than it ever was. You just were asleep. So, welcome to the waking world. There is work to be done. We can't do it for you. So, what is the work? Talk to that uncle at the barbecue who had something to say about people being deported and how great it was. You know, don't tolerate violent language like that because ultimately it is violent language. Talk to each other, organize, excuse me, with each other. I will say too that, he wants everybody to be, he meaning you know who, wants everybody to be out in the streets, enraged, crazed, so that he can round everybody up and then say, oh, got to call martial law. And oh, we can't have elections because, the state of the unrest in the country precludes that. That's what he wants. So if you're going to protest, be peaceful. Remember that the best way to protest in this country is with your money, with your dollar bills, where you do and don't put your money. Boycotts work. General strikes work. Ask France. They are the masters of the general strike. So talk amongst yourselves, as I used to say to my kids. If I was like grading an essay or something and, wanted them to just leave me alone for a minute so I could just finish whatever I was doing, I would say, talk amongst yourselves. I'm saying that to you, my white viewers. Talk amongst yourselves because the shock and awe that you feel, that's what we felt when we got off the slave ships. And I say we got off the slave ships because here's a word you can look up. My 4th of July word of the day, epigenetics. We hold the memory of that pain in our cells, in our cells. So the shock and awe that you feel, that's how we felt. But we've had generations to metabolize it. And we're not really in the mood, I guess is the word, the term, to make your shock and awe any easier to process. That's for you. That's your work to do. That's your work to do. I'm here, I read cards, I say hard things in ways that I hope are hearable. I do that same thing on Substack. That's the most that I can do. But if you're going to write me and say, well, what's the solution? What should we do? Talk amongst yourselves. This is a good day for that, the 4th. And even if all you talk about is how flummoxed you are by all of this, how shocked and amazed and horrified and embarrassed that you didn't know all along, that's great. That's great. It's good to process that. It's good to talk about that. Talk about that amongst yourselves. You know, Black people are here. We have always been in the struggle, but we're not going to be in the struggle in the way, in the form, in the shape that you ask us to be. We will be the determiners of that. But we are not out of the fight, so don't think that for a minute. I know it's a sobering day. I know that this message was also sobering. Um, I hope I hope you share what I've had to say, um, as hard as it may have been to hear. But this is the best that I can do for you on this 4th of July because I'm with Douglas. Like this is not really my celebration. Um, and all of us need to really sit and think, what are we celebrating? Except unless we're celebrating the potential that we still have as still a young country, we're still young to decide that the words we want to pay attention to in our founding documents are the idea that our founders trusted that we would work hard to create a more perfect union, not a perfect union, a more perfect union, which is to say, better. What we've got, it's not good. It's just straight bad. So we are working against what they intended. So, it's worth taking a moment, talking quietly amongst yourselves. What would a more perfect union look like? I would suggest that staying awake, processing the pain of what it feels like to be awake is a good start on this Independence Day. I'll see you next week, back with the cards, and I wish you a peaceful, reflective 4th of July. Take care.